you are on the platform, but our next guest normally joins us from the sort of, doyen-like comfort of his study, surrounded by books, where he brings us up to date with what's happening in the world in New Zealand's place. And at the moment, though, he's in a hotel room, I think, from what I can see, somewhere in Europe. Robert Patman joins us for our first chat about the globe, what's happening internationally, our first chat of 2025. Robert, lovely to see you. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Where are you?
Oh, thank you, Sean. I'm actually in my sister's home in Almere in the Netherlands. So, yeah.
Okay. Holiday.
Having a bit of a break. I've been speaking in Canada, Germany at 3 universities, and then Leiden University in The Hague, and now got a couple of days break and then head back to New Zealand at the weekend.
All right. Well, look, thank you for joining us. A bit's happened. I want to start in the Mideast. Some sort of ceasefire in Gaza. And no doubt he will take the credit for it, Donald Trump. How did this happen? Is it real progress, or is it just a lull in the outrage, whatever side you're on?
It's promising, but it's precarious. Both Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump have claimed credit for it. Mr. Biden said, in his words, these are not mine, that it's a victory for dogged and dedicated American diplomacy. Mr. Trump says, or rather his envoy to the Middle East says, that the advent of Mr. Trump meant that when he said all hell would be paid if the parties in question didn't move towards peace, and he was targeting Hamas with that threat, then there will be consequences. So both sides claim credit. What we do know is this process, the agreement which was reached, is based on a draft which Mr. Biden circulated in May 2024.
All right, okay. But it is progress. Do you think it means the current intense round of hostility ceases? Everyone goes back and Hamas goes back and licks their wounds?
No, I don't think so. I think both sides have concerns. It's no secret that Mr. Netanyahu had a struggle to persuade some members of his cabinet to accept this ceasefire agreement. It was eventually approved by the Israeli cabinet, but it's no secret that there was quite considerable division over the ceasefire. Hamas is still very much intact, and remember, a key objective for Mr. Netanyahu was the annihilation and the destruction of Hamas. So that objective has not yet been achieved. On the Hamas side, they are worried that the agreement, I should explain, Sean, consists of 3 parts. The first part lasts for about 6 weeks, and it involves the exchange of 33 Israeli hostages for about 1,900 Palestinian prisoners. And the second phase is supposed to involve a gradual withdrawal of Israel from Gaza. The third phase looks at the reconstruction of Gaza with Palestinians returning to their neighborhoods. But the first phase, we've already seen there's been military action in Gaza since the agreement was signed. It was announced on the 15th of January and began on the 19th of January. So I think it's still very delicate. It remains to be seen. One of the biggest problems is that Mr. Netanyahu and his cabinet are dead set against a Palestinian state, whereas the countries arming Israel, the United States, led by Mr. Trump, Germany, the United Kingdom, and also Australia are among the countries arming Israel. They want a 2-state solution. And that is a big issue, I think, from Israel's point of view. And Hamas, a terror organization, is not going to back down on the issue of political self-determination for the Palestinians. So the politics of the Israeli-Palestinian division haven't been resolved.
Yeah.
And so I think also, to be quite frank, it's not just the Gaza situation, it's the reverberations elsewhere. And as you know, with the amount of deaths on both sides, tragic deaths, there's a lot of hatred and a lot of intolerance. And unfortunately, in such circumstances, force of extremism can well flourish. And that's what's got to be a concern to all of us.
Let's look at the other big conflict zone, Ukraine. I watched last night, I kind of fell down a YouTube rabbit hole. I watched a Trump press conference. He's got an envoy over there, and I was trying to decode in between slapping himself endlessly on the back. Trump was kind of saying, well, look, there's a deal to be done here. We do need to say Ukraine won't join NATO. I can understand why that would worry Putin, and then Putin pulls back. Is there any indication that the change of presidency is going to lead to a significant, if you like, watershed moment in that conflict?
I think it's too early to tell, Sean, to be absolutely precise. What we do know is that Mr. Trump hasn't been able to deliver on his pledge to bring peace within 24 hours of taking office. That was probably campaign rhetoric, to be fair.
Yeah.
But what I have detected is quite a distinct shift in tone from Mr. Trump towards Mr. Putin. I don't know if you saw that tweet he put out on Truth Social. I thought it was extraordinary.
What did he say?
He said that while he is a great friend of the Russian people and acknowledged their tremendous contribution in the Second World War and gets on very well with Mr. Trump, he said to Mr. Putin, I'll say that again.
Yeah.
Acknowledge he had very good relations. Mr. Trump said he had very good relations with Mr. Putin. Sorry to mislead people. Yeah. And also, he said, but having said all that, he said that Mr. Putin must end, quote, this ridiculous war in Ukraine. And that if he didn't, US sanctions would follow. He said, Mr. Zelensky wants peace. Mr. Putin effectively has to make some hard decisions now. He said it's ruining the Russian economy.
Yeah.
And he threatened he'd ruin it further if Russia didn't wind this military, he didn't call it an invasion, but it is an invasion of Ukraine down. So also, please note that the person he's appointed as his special envoy to Ukraine is no softy towards the Russians. He said from the outset, there will only be peace when Russians withdraw their occupying force from Ukraine. So I think there's been a bit of a shift going on amongst the Trump. I think Mr. Trump's views may have changed since he got into power.
Yeah.